Welcome back to AsArt. My name is Nick, and I have Britt here with me, cha.cha.cherry on Instagram. She's an awesome photographer, and today we're going through all the comments you guys have left. There's been so many comments. We're going to have to do a part one and a part two to kind of get through them all, but it's totally worth it. Kyle is currently traveling, but I was talking to him about doing other deep dives on other characters too, so that's going to be coming in January. So a lot of plans for this new year, but man, thank you guys so much for all your comments. Read it. We've been trying to read almost everyone. Some of them are way too long for us to actually read. They're amazing comments, but we're trying to get through good sized paragraphs and to break it down. And by the way, if you go to asart.space, you can get the cool Gallivespian shirts with the dragonfly. Kyle designed them. Super talented guy. But now we're jumping in to the comments.
Fernandez T. You are too nice, LOL. But I've been waiting to hear your take on it. I wish that you would talk more about the details about the differences, especially the dumb ones. Thanks, dude.
There's a lot of differences. There's so many differences in the last two episodes. It would be a huge 3-hour-long video to go over all the
It'd
differences.
be as long as the Avatar.
That would almost. That would just. There's so many differences that happen in the battle. It's like crazy how different the battle was to how they actually found their demons in the battle and how they jumped to the Malefa world and what happened in the Malefa world and all the information crammed into the end of the book trying to explain where the specters come from and the knife and why they have to destroy the knife and why they can't be together. It's so much information that you have to receive where it actually, like, they did a okay job doing it, but like when you translate book stuff to film, you're always going to have to leave stuff out. And yeah, I mean, definitely comment down below we are going to be doing deep dives. You'll probably hear me for the next month just complaining about stuff that they left out, but for sure subscribe. We're going to be covering all that stuff.
I don't feel like you're complaining as much on this one versus Rings of Power.
Oh, Rings of Power is really bad.
We're still recuperating. Black's Mew. Loved it. Solid 9 out of 10. Now I get to go read the books.
Lucky you. I am so happy for you to read the books. They're so good. You're going to enjoy them even more than the show. Like, that's how good they are.
Eventually. There's only so much time in the day.
Yeah.
I hope this is how you say it. Vermilion. I just don't understand why they can't train a real cat to play as Willis's demon. Probably the worst CGI in this series. Okay, cats are very hard to train.
Well, it's not even just that too. It's also we know cats so well, so it's so easy to spot a CGI cat or a CGI dog because they're so involved in our lives and our social media feeds. You're always going to see a cat. So it's just like humans too. When you see a CGI human, you're going to know right away, like, dude, something's off about that guy. You know what I mean? Because it's just, we see human faces, interact with them all the time. So cats are really tough, but I think they had to do it that way. One, because the demon has to talk. And it's just maybe, and just probably just easier with budgets. And they already had all these other CGI animals and stuff like that, and you can tell too they really reduced Will's demon too. You really even got to see her, Kilava, I think it was her name.
Kirana.
So yeah, you really didn't even get to see her too. So, which is a bummer, but it's also we have some other comics asking about how it just popped up and stuff. We're going to be going into his demons for sure in this video. So, but yeah, that's why
that's a really good point, though. I've never thought about that with cats and dogs and how we're so used to seeing them, unless if it's super animated, something like Puss in Boots, where it's like, okay.
Well, yeah, because that's like a cartoon, right? So yeah.
Right, but that's easier to get away with.
Or a polar bear. like
but then again, like how, I mean, unless if you go to the zoo, how close do you get to polar bears?
Yeah, exactly. So like Yorick feels so real to us, right? Like, oh man, they did such a good job, but it's also like we don't see a polar bear every day.
Yeah, we're never
unless you live in Alaska or somewhere.
I'm so sure you're still not getting close to them, unless if you're like a wildlife animal photographer, then you're still like how many millimeters out? I don't think they want to be cuddled with. Okay, we're on Rev Theory, right? Rev Fairy Fox 5. I was bawling my eyes out at the end. I couldn't hold back. I know it wasn't perfect, but I'm glad that the series concluded and that I got to see it in my life. My nephews aren't really interested, but maybe someday they'll like it.
Yeah, I was very happy too with the ending because obviously the bummer is in the show the weight of their relationship's not fully there yet.
Mhm.
Because I know the book characters, seeing it on screen, it's like, oh, cool, that's a cool visual payoff for me. Like seeing how they have to separate and showing
Right.
over time. Because in the book, it ends with them talking about the bench and then they go their separate ways. And like a little bit of dialogue happens, with Lyra and Pan in their world and how she's going to start learning the alethiometer and she's going to this new school. So there's like a little
Mhm.
bit of dialogue that happens there, but then she's like, I wonder what Will's doing. Or, she's like thinking about Will still because, that separation happened. But
Yeah.
overall, I thought it was different too because they're supposed to go to Will's bench in Will's world, but they went to Lyra's bench in Lyra's world,
Oh,
and then they switched that. So, but it's like little things like, like you can't get angry over that. Like,
I
that's just
have
a
a
choice.
random question.
Yeah. Hmm.
Does Lyra's world not age the same as Will's world? Because of the bench they were showing how his was a little bit more tattered.
Oh well, it's just slightly different. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So it's just like it's a slightly different world. So
Mhm.
not everything is going to be one to one the same, but it's like
Got it.
there just happened to be an Oxford that was look similar with a bench there,
But
kind
the
of thing.
time for
Is the
like the
same.
time length is the same. Okay.
Yeah.
J artist impression. I watched the entire show without reading the books. Although I
Mm,
got most of what was happening, I was confused in the part like the box with
mm,
with the angel.
mm-hmm,
Very much felt like the show was rushing and lost all of the detail.
mm,
Even though I love the story between Lyra and Will, it's rushed and I felt very contrived.
mm-hmm,
I was not really sold on their love story for sure,
mm,
which is unfortunate because it's such an important part. It's such an important part of
yes.
the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, thank you for making these videos. Cleared my confusions and keep up the good work.
You are so welcome. It did feel rushed. By the way, we did do a video called "Man in the Box." We explained who the old person was in the box, but basically, in short, it's the authority slash God slash the creator, the first being created from matter. That was him. So we did a whole deep dive breakdown. Me and Kyle, we went down breaking down on the roles and how that all works out, and we knew there would be a lot of questions on that because we got early comments because all the episodes were released on the BBC iPlayer all at once. So there were people commenting on our videos, asking these questions about the end before we even got there. So we knew this was going to be a question because he's like, there's a mummy guy that disappears. And we're like, oh, okay. So they really did go very vague with that. So we knew those comments would come up. And then, yeah, I felt that too with Lyra and Will's story. It's that time. Like,
Yeah.
I know they had their second season together, but then they didn't spend like the first two episodes together. It's just like it is in the books. And then it's like this forced love story while they're also going on an adventure. It's just everything's so crammed in.
Those poor actors to be up
Yeah.
against that. Okay, you guys have this much time to show that you're really in love with one
Yeah.
another. Like that's a bummer. But
Yeah.
at least I still think you get the gist of it, and anyone watching the show would understand. You can't
Yeah.
you can't judge the show on
Hmm.
that as if it's their fault.
It's not the actors.
You really
It's
can't.
it's just it's a
No.
pacing issue that is unavoidable with their budget and restraints that they had.
Right.
They were restrained to 8 episodes for the last season. It's not like they did a part one and a part two for the final season, which would have been amazing, but we did not get that.
Do you think they should have just turned it into a movie?
I don't know. You would get even less info because you're a movie. You're looking at three
Yeah.
hours. And that's like 3 episodes.
Yeah. That was funny when they did mention the dolphin. I was like, okay, Nick, did you pre-plan all these things you
It's
told
not.
me?
It's not mentioned
Just so
that
the way
far in
they
the
just
book. It's
minutely mention these things.
it's mentioned early. I know it's so funny because once I said that, I'm like, oh, me and Kai are gonna laugh because we talk about the dolphin demon all the time.
Mirac, so the person in the cube who was just that was just faded into dust.
Yes, exactly. Just like the last comment, we did a whole
That was
video.
extremely confusing,
Man
though.
in the box, very confusing. It's pretty vague in the book too, to be
I
honest.
didn't even
Like
know it was a man.
they don't really. Well, it's an angel, but it
Mhm.
appears as an old man kind of thing. So yes, we did a whole breakdown on that. Go enjoy that video. It's I think a pretty good video.
Where did Bartholomew's or whatever turn into dust? Once he killed
Mhm.
Father Gomez, are angels not allowed to kill?
Angels are allowed to kill. Like they're most of them aren't strong enough. Balthamos used the last of his will to live to basically hold on to that spider, and then once Gomez is dead, he had no other reason to live because his love was for Baruch, who died earlier in the season. So he just let himself evaporate, kind of thing, to be one with Baruch again. So yeah.
Is it hard to kill a spider?
Well, so remember like what I was talking about? Like you can, in the book, I believe he was separated far enough from his demon where, that
Oh,
separation happens kind of thing. Where this one, he just like crushes the spider kind of thing. So, yeah.
or spider.
But yes, Father Gomez dies that way though by Balthamos' hand.
That was interesting. I mean, it was such a dead giveaway too. It's when you see him like following.
Oh,
But I understand, and I'm not judging the show on it, but it was like, gee, I wonder what's going to happen. Asia Greasies, please don't judge me. Okay, this season felt so rushed, but I still cried at the end. Same reaction reading the books 13 years
yeah.
ago while I was in high school. Hopefully they do the next book when Lyra is older. I do believe Lyra and Will meet again if Philip Pullman does continue the series. It just shows both Will and Lyra as college ages on the bench in the show. Maybe that means something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with all book readers, we might have, depending on your opinion, but enjoyed seeing that ending kind of thing because you always picture it in your head. Obviously, it's much more intense in the book because they're like, oh, we can leave, because in the book it's pretty cool. Well, the way they set it up, the angel's like, you can leave one open. They're like, sweet, we can leave one open, one portal open in the world, so we can still see each other. We can hide it, keep it safe.
Oh.
And they're like, no, but the land of the dead. Like that means they would have to close the portal that leaves the land of the dead, which they promise everyone that they're like, we can't do that to the land of the dead kind of thing. So, it was much more like these teenagers trying to figure it out. And then it's like, well, there's no options. Like they have to be adults about it kind of thing. So, and then they really hound on the fact too, like Will, they're like, well, you only can live 10 years in another world before you become sick and die, right? That's like a thing that we learned from Will's father. That's why they can't just be together in the same world. And then they're like 16 in the books, roughly, maybe even younger. So 10 years for them will only be 26. So Will's like, we would just start living our lives and one of us would have to die. Like, that's not even, so it's like, we have to live our lives out to the fullest. So it's this whole thing as kids becoming adults.
Always wanting what you can't have.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good in the book. Yeah, I would highly.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. The writing's good.
Yeah.
Dwizzy Green. Okay, it said that Laura and Pan had another journey I didn't understand. Does it mean Lyra and Pan?
Yeah. Lyra.
Okay. I was like, who's Laura? Lyra and Pan had another journey I didn't understand. Now, Sonic Sugar responded, Philip Pullman wrote another series called The Book of Dust. The first part is about a tiny Lyra, and she came to the Scholastic Sanctuary, and why she lived at Jordan. The second is about young Lyra, who still mourns the lost love of Will, but has to face new dangers. The third part is still under construction, I want to believe.
Yeah, that's what I know too, basically. I have not read the other two books. Kyle has. That's why, like, when we do breakdowns on Dust and stuff, Kyle likes to relate to those other characters in the books. But the first one, from what I know from Kyle, is basically how Lyra is born and how she's like had it kept secret and safe in her journey to get to where she is, and to where we catch up with the books kind of thing. So, yeah, no, basically, thank you for answering that question, Sonic. You the man.
Peter Liss. Strictly watching the show in episode 7, how did Will and Lyra's daemons end up in the world with the main battle? It seemed like Seraphina and Lyra just knew they were there. Thank you for being such a great channel to follow this series and books.
So this is cool. Like after Lyra leaves Pan at the land of the dead, or the boat crossing, obviously Pan's still alive. And it's like what the witches go through where they can be separated from their demons. But then Will's demon also appears there. So they go on this grand adventure, just adventuring with themselves, going through different worlds. They go to the Gallivespian worlds. They go to all the different worlds. And that's when they find out this information. They talk to an angel. Like this whole adventure happens, basically. And they end up going to Azrael's land, or not Azrael, Lord Azrael's world or fortress land or world, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And the reason why Lyra knows she's there in the books is because of the alethiometer. Because remember, she has a tool called the
Couldn't she
alethiometer.
ask the alethiometer like what happened to her mom?
So about
Or dad?
time she starts to think about that, she loses the power. So that's another thing in the books that was different from the
Interesting.
show. So she never knows if her parents were alive or not, or what happens to her parents at the end of the show, kind of thing. So, and it's one of those things like she'll never know because she can no longer read the alethiometer and with everything else. So she has no idea the sacrifice they made to save her. Yeah.
Spoiled child.
So in the show, they kind of did it where she does know. It's different, right? Because the golden monkey's there, and she sees the golden monkey disappear, so she knows her mother's dead, but she doesn't know how she still died and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yo, honey. Azrael and his rebellion defeats the guy pretending to be the authority, but originally he wanted to defeat the authority. So is the authority still around?
Yes, the authority is the man in the box. Basically, we did a whole breakdown on that, just going in depth. But so, like, remember, he only knew the authority created this illusion of power and stuff, right? But then when Balthamos comes with the information to him, he learns that there's a Lord Regent, and the authority gave up his control to the Lord Regent. So that's why his battle becomes with the Lord Regent and not the authority, because the authority is like old and withering and dying.
That's the dude in the box?
The authority is God, the first creator from matter. He's the one that told everyone the lie. Yeah, that's the guy in the box.
Okay.
He's the one that told everyone the lie of the universe, huh? To preserve him, basically, because as soon as the box is open and they try to let him out, he fades into dust because he's so weak and old and frail.
But that was in the rebellion's camp, right?
Well, because it dropped from the heaven thing.
Okay.
If you go back, it's whenever you see the Lord Regent like in his like fortress and stuff, you'll see a cube in the center underneath him all the time. So like think of it as like Lord of the Rings when they go to Rohan and the king's not there, but like Grima Wormtug's like the guy doing his bidding. So like the authority was just acting on the behalf of, or the Regent was acting on the behalf of the authority.
Got it.
Got to put in some.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of information.
You gave the wizard his staff.
CMJNWD. I hope that's how you want me to say that versus Kanjing. What did Metatron's relationship with the authority TA? What was Metatron's relationship with the authority TA?
Yeah.
What does TA mean?
The authority. He's like he's going to be abbreviating it in the comment now.
Okay, that was on me. Okay, HBO has released an explainer video suggesting that Metatron was taking care of the authority. How might the transfer of power have happened, or do you think the authority had any choice in the matter? So many questions. Shot for the video, guys. I'm gonna miss these HDM uploads, these dark material uploads. I got that one.
We're gonna post as much as we can next month, trying to just do as many breakdowns as possible. But to answer your question, in my opinion, I believe the authority was just getting old and frail. So he passed it to a stronger being, which was Enoch, the regent, So Metatron. So like all those different names he has. But so I think that's what happened. That's why he's an old, frail old man that when we see him, because he's aging, because he's the first being ever created from matter. So he has to be pretty old.
Just interesting he uses Enoch, because I think that's a missing book of the Bible.
No,
too.
Enoch is in the Bible. Enoch,
but didn't they take that? Oh, go ahead.
That might have, but Enoch is the one that was so close with God that God took him up to heaven.
Oh, okay. Be a dragon. Please, I thought you were telling me to be a dragon. Watch Primal. No, that's House of the Dragon. Gosh, there's so many reptiles this year.
a lot of shows we covered.
Okay, all right, Be the Dragon. Please tell me that after all this, both Mrs. Coulter and Azrael are not both damned to eternal oblivion. Can't they cross over themselves to the land of the dead? And Lyra has no goodbye or closures with her parents apart from the monkey scene. That just gutted me. Also, what happens to Mary Malone after her and Will go back? Did she
Mm,
reunite with her girlfriend? It touched on that, but didn't flesh it out.
mm,
What are the next adventures for Lyra and Pan in the future? And could they ever come together again? Otherwise, the prophecy seemed useless about their love and lives
mm,
being the key. Anyways, I love the show and
mm.
appreciate all your breakdowns and amazing insights. Thanks.
All right, let's go through all these questions. Yes,
That's a lot of questions.
they are both damned to eternal oblivion. They are never going to go to the land
No!
of the dead. They're gone. Their matters and particles are gone. They'll never be united or anything. And they knew that going into it. They knew that this sacrifice had to be made to save Lyra. And it's pretty intense in the books too,
Not
because
really.
when they fight Metatron, um, he is in angel form, not in human form. So he's like flapping his wings. So they're trying to grasp his wings so he'll fall down when he's trying to fly up. The monkey's there fighting. The leopard's there fighting. Lord Azrael's getting hit so hard by Megatron, he's like losing his mind and all this stuff. And then the leopard goes for the neck on Megatron. It's like this very intense like fighting scene that happens, and it happens like in the land of the dead where the rift is. They like take him down. So like no one knows this is happening, kind of thing, and it just happens, and they destroy it, and they know they're never gonna be united with Lyra ever again either. And in the books, just like we talked about earlier, Lyra never knows the outcome or what happened like that. So yes,
Whoa!
yeah, it's very deep in the books. Yes.
Whoa!
And then Mary Malone.
Heart wrenching.
Yeah. And then for
Ouchie.
Mary Malone's
Ouch.
question with her girlfriend, I believed it was a boyfriend in the book, and they changed it to be a girlfriend in the show. But that was just a thing with, like, she was just explaining how she fell in love once with
Okay.
someone to like almost. It's like the temptation. That's why she's like the serpent. She played the serpent. She almost like sparked that maybe Lyra's and Will's relationship was more than just a friendship kind of thing, maybe because she just talked about the little moments she loved. And it's more detailed in the book of like how Mary Malone fell in love when she's telling the story to Lyra and Will and stuff like that, which ignites these thoughts and ideas in their own heads, kind of thing like that. And I believe when she goes back, she basically is with Will because she's happy she has someone to share these stories with, because they're the only two people from, I
And they're
just say Will's
demons.
from our world. I don't know if it's technically our world, but
Seems like it.
that's the only person she'll ever be able to talk to about it, kind of thing. And then it's also really cool because she learns how to look and find her demon. But in the book it's like very complicated. You have to like look straight, look out of the corner of your eye, and from certain angles you may see the bird. It's not
Some
like,
peripheral,
so like
like
it doesn't,
your damon's
it's
only in your peripheral
yeah, so
vision.
basically she has to learn the skill to see her demon, which we know would probably happen
Hmm.
over time, but in the book she only gets a glance. There's no landing on the finger kind of thing like you get in the show.
Is
But
it a bird?
yes,
Is
it's
it a little
yes,
like sparrow
yes,
type
it's
bird?
it's the
Cute.
same bird though, which is really cool. And then in the future, I don't know. There's still a book he has to finish writing. I think there's one more book he's in the process of writing, which may lead to something, but I hope it doesn't, because like the whole point of it is they're gonna meet in the afterlife, or when they're together as matter, kind of thing. If they do come back, it's just like kills the whole point of the story in the
Hmm.
first place. But
When I was watching the show, what I thought about, and given I've only watched the show, so like minus all the spoilers you give me and, you know, like the updates of stuff, like I felt like their relationship represented a lifetime,
mm,
and how, especially when you look at old couples or people growing up, it's like, oh, that's what I got out of it, just looking
mm,
at them. It's like this. I feel like it's a metaphor, like, and about how you only have such a short time to live and
mm,
to be in love. At least that's how I took it from the show.
yeah.
It's like, oh, that's kind of a cool point.
And then
But
also too, I think this might be a question later on, but oh no, no, it's coming up in the next question. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're
I'm
gonna
sorry that you're
cover.
telling me not to.
Yeah, we're gonna cover this next one. I was
Well, I
this
have to
next topic.
scroll
I'm
away
I'm
my
gonna
notes.
talk about with their demons and how they stay a certain type of demon. But yeah,
I keep going back and forth. I know it's like demons,
yeah,
demons,
demons.
but then I hear demons,
Yeah,
and like I'm all over the map
Damon. Yeah,
with
however
it.
you say it, it's fine here. We don't judge.
I hope not. Um, okay. Elise Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Coulter's destroying the specters really annoyed me. The
Yeah.
battle scene was not epic enough.
Hmm.
Their daemons settling in their forms when Will touched Pan and Lyra touched Kirjava,
Yeah.
and
Kirjava,
the
thank you. That's the name of it.
significance.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, it's close.
Hmm.
Sorry, and the significance it should have been in the show. Would have preferred to see Mrs. Coulter slash Lord Asriel and the Metatron scene to be the same as in the book.
Mm.
The main thing, though, that wasn't addressed in Lyra and Will's life mission was to re-educate the world about death and
Hmm.
moving on.
Yep, that's
But
true.
overall, have really enjoyed the series. I really hope Phil Pullman one day will reunite Will and Lyra. Well,
Mm.
that's what we were kind of just talking about.
So the specters, yes. So in the battle, they have to address the specters because the specters were still around in the show. In the book, the ghosts fight the specters. But
Huh.
because the ghosts weren't a part of the battle at all, we know Mrs. Coulter had the power to control them in book 2. You know what I mean? So I think their way of doing it was like the Neo hand push, which was really stupid because I know what should have been done and that shouldn't have been done. But that was a bold choice that they went with. And yes, it was not epic enough. There was no York. There was no polar bear fighting like he should have
I
been
was wondering
fighting.
about that. Like, where was he?
Yeah, he wasn't in the
Was
battle.
in the book though? He's in the battle.
Yeah, there's actually a
Okay.
scene where like Lyra and Will ride on his back to get him to like their demons and all this stuff, and then he gets caught in a net, and then Will has to save him out of a net. It's like this whole chaotic thing, and then the Gallivespians are flying around and helping and all this stuff. Yeah, it's just like intense. Like, do you remember the final Avengers movie when they had like the gauntlet? And every hero kind of passes the gauntlet on to play keep away. That's how it is. Like all these people that Lyra knew throughout her life, kind of thing. Like, let's go this way, Lyra. Here, Lyra. Like everyone's helping them get to where they have to go, kind of thing. It's just fun because it's like these people from their adventures are all like, helping her. Like, you got this, go, 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 kind of thing. So we did not get that.
Everything's
which
a
is bummer.
heist.
Yeah.
Everything is a heist. Everything is a
Yeah.
heist.
And
Oh,
then
you son of a bitch, I'm in.
yeah, and then like Pan and Kivara settling in the book, it's like this huge moment, right? Because you remember, it's weird to touch someone else's demon. It's almost like off-puttish, right? It's like, oh my gosh,
You're
get
not
away,
supposed
get
to.
away,
You're
yeah.
forbidden.
But the
But
whole
you can, because I was wondering about that too. So even though
Yeah.
it's technically forbidden, it's just saying you shouldn't do that.
well, exact because it's like reaching out and touching someone's soul, right? So like when you're in love with someone, and that's why it's like the whole moment in the book when Lyra touches Kivara and when Will touches Pan, they
Mhm.
felt the touch of a lover,
Mhm.
so they never wanted to leave that form again, and that's when they settle.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
bummer.
So it's like, that's why they're like, oh, like they love the feeling of being touched, like your soul being touched by love. That's why they'd always want to stay that way.
Especially with like their whole parental situations, I'm sure that that's even more of a
Hmm.
thing for them.
So that was just a bummer. It was kind of just barely touched on. You know what I mean? Obviously it's because of time and all that, but that's like a huge part. Like, when is your demon going to settle? And like in the books, she's always like, she's always talking to Pan, like, what do you think you're going to settle as, a bird or this? It's always like a
Mhm.
question and he never knows because he's like, I don't know what I'm going to settle as, kind of thing. And then what else was,
But their daemons were always settled because even though Will's the same age as her, but his has always been a tabby cat.
well, in the books,
Kirjava.
yeah, in the books, she changes. Like
Okay.
like when they talk to Serafina Pecula in the books before they meet
Mhm.
up with Lyra and Will, she has them turn into birds and they fly up to
Right.
say. She's like, I have a feeling because witches can kind of see the future. She's like, this might be the last time you'll ever be able to fly. I see climbing in both of your futures. Like kind of thing, like in your final set. So like, there's so much in the books that happen, but technically, Kirara also changes until she settles as a tabby cat. But
Mm.
and then the Mrs. Coulter, Lord Asriel scene, big difference is she tricks Metatron to come down where Lord Asriel's at. So she tricks him, like she deceives him to come down to kill Lord Asriel, but then they both turn on him and so there's like
She's so cool.
she is cool. Book one
such a cool
and also
character.
and then and then re-educate the world. Okay, so a big theme in the book too is tell stories, and the whole thing is they're supposed to be educating everyone to tell the true story so they can pass through the land of the dead. And that's a major theme in the book, which is just really lacking here big time.
Oh. Is that the last part of that question?
Yeah, that was quite a few questions to get through on that one, but thank you so much for your comments. I really enjoy answering them this way than to write it in text. I think it's a fun discussion way.
Too much writing. J.O. Tower, right? I saw the various comments and complaints on your previous videos about Mulefa's design and the species in the book having far more unique, less standard quadrupedal anatomy.
Spine structure, yep.
And spinal structure. I used to teach a course on animal anatomy and creature design, taken from its original creator, Terry Whitlatch, which is worth looking up. Terry Whitlatch is worth looking up. It sounds like the perfect species for her to have tackled. It became quickly apparent to me in the final episode why the anatomy had to be altered to look like a tapir and Idricotherium in a short elephant trunk and giraffe-like horns. They are structured around humans with wheeled extensions and mocap suits. Have Kyle, yes, yes, Kyle, take 3/4 frontal of the lateral screen snap of one. Find the elbows, knees, and the line of the spine so he can neatly fit a human into it. It was an animation budget saver. Dang, that was definitely more for Kyle.
Yeah, that was definitely for Kyle. But yeah, I understand what they did too, and also when you go too crazy and it becomes that weird, like, not human, something you don't recognize, where like if the joints move differently and stuff like that. I understand what they did. It's just such a bummer because for book readers, you come up with these ideas in your head, but overall, I mean, they look good. They were just probably walking around too much for me. Like I would have been fine if they were just rolling around more, but hey, what can you do? There's budgets for everything, and that was a very expensive budget.
Proggers, weren't those supposed to be more during the battle? Like it was angels versus witches, and there were ghosts versus specters?
Yep. And even more than that.
Is that your final comment?
Yeah, because obviously we've been talking about it here, but yes, they definitely reduced the amount of visuals for sure with that stuff.
Corona Jewelry. I didn't like the ending, to be honest, neither the book ending nor the TV show. It was so sad after all the sacrifices that they went through in for the most multi-universe, restoring it, etc. Not to see each other and be told they can't see each other, see the other. It broke me, honestly. On the plus side, the acting of Ruth Wilson is amazing. Performance. Sorry, that was so jumpy.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I totally understand. Everything was probably just slightly reduced, or even more so reduced when it comes to story and just character buildings to move the plot along. And I think sometimes too, by forcing book elements in, it's all probably hurting the flow of the story too. It's like, oh, we have to have this. Like, they have to have certain moments hit, even though their story's kind of going another way. I think it really just makes the story feel jagged at times too. It's like, oh, we got to do this for the book reader, even though it may not fit in here, but you got to do it anyways, kind of thing. So,
do you know if sales of the book, or have you looked in to see if that has gone up? I'd just be curious to, even if like if the story is still being passed around more, and if there is an interest of actual reading. Yeah,
that actually would be really cool to look into.
Because then it is for a good cause in the end if we can see that. John Cliff Alvarez. My question still remains. If the regent can turn himself into an immaterial being, why didn't he do so when falling into the abyss with Lyra's parents? He could have just flown away while leaving the parents to fall into the oblivion. Finally, the intention craft, there is still that piece of tech that seems to be transferred without leaving a tear. Sort of leaves the plot hole in the sense that Lyra could use it to visit Will.
Yep.
Still, overall, this has been my favorite show and my favorite book series.
Yes. And that was a change in the books. Obviously, when they fight the Lord Regent, Metatron, when they fight him, he's in angel form, and it's very much like them trying to grab the wings. That's a huge focus of them, like grabbing him so the wings can't fly, and then like hitting him. So that's a big part, which obviously they must have switched it to his Enoch human form just so they don't have to have the budget of an angel, which is very weird. But then it's so funny because I think I mentioned this at the end of my last video of the intention craft. I'm like, and it's so funny because after the first episode, I talked to Kyle about this. I was like, should we make a video about this? Because I just didn't know until the ending. But the intention craft in the book, I always imagined it where when it flew there, but it was using, I don't think it created holes in multiverses. I think it went through like paths and holes that were already created. But in the show, it definitely looks like it rips through universes without leaving a tear. And in my head, I'm like, so technically Will and Lyra could still see each other without having to make a tear. So I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Unless the tech was destroyed. And, think about it. Lord Asriel was the only one that knew how to make them in the books.
Yeah.
So, I mean, technically that could have happened, but I was just like, yes, that's a major plot hole.
Well, maybe in the future, if he continues the story to write it, there's something that...
Yeah, maybe that's how they see each other.
Misty 306. Newcomer here. I am so glad this adaptation is complete. I've waited for years. Thank you for doing these videos. I've been writing them for my blog.
Cool.
My favorite child book series, media adaptation, is done.
Yeah, and
right on.
I feel the same way. It's just nice the story's finished. It didn't stop after season 2, and we were never, finished with season 3. I'm happy they followed through with it, and they did it. Me too. I'm just glad we finished it. Is it the most perfect? No. Is it the best? No, but it sure enough got the job done.
Rachel LOL XX. So would it be Rachel Law X? I'm going to miss Yorak and Pan and the monkey and all the little demons.
Yeah, we all are. They did such a good job with the VFX with those guys.
And I think that's one of the major reasons or things that are attractive about the story is the animals, because everyone has this attachment and to combine this idea of your pet being a part of your soul, and it's something that's abstract but people can comprehend. Carries the beast, it rhymes. Also, I love your content and everything. I think of a question, I come here. Every time I think of a question, I come here. Okay. Why did Bartholomew's die when killing Father Gomez's daemon? Can angels not kill? Kind of went over this, but yes.
So angels can kill. The thing is, like in the books, it's when they talk about some angels are super weak where it's easy for a human to kill an angel. But because Balthamos in the books was invisible basically and he was holding on to the demon, so Father Gomez couldn't find him kind of thing. So, and the demon was like biting Balthamos, like practically killing him in the books. Like Balthamos was dying when he was, because like the angel was so weak. So he had to like use every fiber in his thing just to keep a bug in his hand. Yeah.
Way more sense when you say it, when you put it like that. Isabel Russell, I would have preferred the defeat of Metatron to be more like the books. However, I love that they changed it so Lyra knows that her mother at least has sacrificed herself for her, or that she died, like you said. I was annoyed in the books that Lyra had no clue to the extent to which people, especially her parents, have sacrificed for her. So I appreciate that the Golden Monkey / Lyra scene adaptation. That's a super cool point.
It is a cool point, but I just wish the show did a better job relating what the mom died of or for.
Yeah, I just feel like Lyra
she just
needs
sees
to know
the monkey
that
dying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was cool because like we know like okay, because we see the action happen. But like, think about it from Lyra's perspective. She sees the golden monkey and she's like, "Oh, hey!
Oh, cool! My mom died."
And then she goes to touch him, and then the monkey just disappears. So she doesn't know how or why her mom died, but she knows her mom died.
Which I was a little disappointed we didn't hear the monkey talk.
I was wrong about that.
I know. I was looking forward to this, Nicholas. Waiting.
Whoopsies. Anyways, next question. I already addressed that mistake.
It wasn't a mistake. It's not your fault the monkey didn't talk. This show is so bad. The characters are all so annoying.
I I can
Wow.
I can see that.
Rawr.
I can see that from your perspective. You know, I mean, like some characters can come across annoying depending
Lyra.
on. Yeah, I mean, especially because of the short screen time and certain actions have to
Yeah.
happen in such a short period of time. Where I could definitely see them coming across as annoying.
All of them, though? All
Most of them. I mean,
of them?
think
Like,
about. I
oh,
mean, because none of their characters really had a full chance to like. I think he's talking about the main characters. I don't think he's
okay.
talking about like York, the bear. Like you can't hate on the bear. You better not be hating on York, anyways. I'm just kidding.
Like, you hate Pan? No one.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I was so sad in the end.
Yeah.
Sad face. That was painful.
Yeah. I think so. I think it did come across pretty well. But if you're a book reader, you really you think about the
No.
what they went through with the book, and you just get to see it visually. It's really nice to see that.
Yeah. Alan La Carrera. In the final episode, Father Gomez is the only obstacle to the second fall, and he gets taken out exceedingly easily by
Mm,
Bartholomew's. After that, it's all fate accompanied.
mm,
I get that Lyra and Will wanted to be together, but I never felt like they weren't going to do whatever they were told to do in
mm,
order to save the other worlds,
mm.
even when it meant that they could never be together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you know what's interesting too, when you think about Father Gomez, is he has a little bit more in the book when he's in the Malefa world. Like there's these giant birds that attack the Malefa, and they're like the lions of the world, or the
Top
apex
predator.
predators. And basically he shoots one with a gun, and right away he knew, like, they started freaking out because like someone finally killed them, and he's like, I can probably control these beasts, and he ends up like riding on them to go to the different Malefa camps, and he sneaks around at night looking for like Lyra and Will, and
Way
like
more
Mary.
intense and
Yeah. Hmm.
tactical. It
Yeah.
did feel a
Hmm.
little bit like a child hide and go seek, like,
Yeah.
uh-oh, guys, I'm coming around the tree.
Hmm.
But it was very
So
like sad how he just killed these poor animals.
I know he shot a Mulefa, right? Yeah, he
Was
like
that a
just shot a
Mulefa?
he shot some random animal. I thought it was like a
Yeah,
Mulefa of a different color, but yeah.
like
Hmm.
a bluish. The
Yeah.
I know what you're
Hmm.
saying. And I was like, did he eat it?
Maybe
Did he
Father
just shoot
Gomez.
it? That little bug though is so annoying. Like, kill it. It's almost like the evil,
The spider.
like angel. Like you have the demon
Yeah.
and the angel on each shoulder.
Yeah.
Heart glowy. How did Will get a demon all of a sudden?
He got it once he hopped on the boat. The demon appeared on the shores with Pan. That's when his demon came into seeable form, because he left it on the
I would have
shore.
liked to see that. That would have been interesting.
No.
What Pam would be like, hi.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay. Well, I'm really
Well,
sad and mad. I guess you can come along with me. You're like,
yeah.
what does Pan do in that situation?
Well, think about, if it's a part of Will's soul, he knows Kivara to some point, or some
Hmm.
degree, because he knows Will. So,
Right.
and I
But still
mean,
to be
for
going through all
Pan
that
though, for
emotion.
Pan, if he's not used to ever being alone, for him he's like a friend.
Right. I know. And you did want to know more about her personality
Yeah.
during the story.
It's cool in the books, because she's kind of like, I was just kind of born yesterday. Like, she has this like, she's like,
Really?
I've
That is
only been around
funny.
for a week. Like, this is great. It's kind of thing. Like,
She's on vacation. Okay, Josh Sector. Thank you for all that you did with the show and the
Mm,
books. The story does continue in the Books of
mm,
Dust series. The first book takes place shortly after Lyra
mhm.
is born. The second book takes place when she's in her 20s.
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
And the third book has not yet come. Wait, what? She's supposed to be in
Yeah.
her 20s?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, she's on her.
I asked you last time, like, how old is she supposed to be? And you said that she
Oh,
looked this age.
wait. What? No,
Lyra.
I thought you meant like in this. These are the books that follow the books. These aren't the trilogy he's talking
Okay.
about. He's
Okay.
talking about the extra books. So the Book of Dust is like a prequel, and
Oh, I
then
see, I see, I see.
the second book takes place after the trilogy.
So the first book goes from her being born to when she's
The
a
Book of Dust.
teenager.
Yeah, to like
Okay.
where the Golden Compass picks up.
Okay.
Hmm.
But at the ending of the show on HBO, what age is she supposed to be?
I mean, I think the 3 books, it's like a 2 to 3 week adventure.
All right.
It
Okay.
is very quick compared to like seeing them age as much as they did.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's so hard to do with actors and
Oh yeah.
whatnot.
I
Like
mean,
Harry
they
Potter
should have
just
did
got
it like
lucky, even
they
though they
should have
look
did it
kind of
like
old for high school.
yeah. If they would have filmed it like Lord of the Rings, just all 3 at once.
Greg Christian. Read the books a while ago and was completely confused with episode 7 and Azrael's plan. Seemed totally disconnected from Lyra and Will's journey. Can't really understand what's going on.
You know, it's very interesting too, because in the book you don't really know his plan of the battle. We kind of just enter into the battle from there, kind of thing. So it's very much like we don't see the speech that he does. We don't see the battle start. We kind of come in mid battle. Yeah. Which is really cool in the books because they just kind of cut a window open and they just see battles happening left and right. Then they're like, let's cut a window over here too. And they look over there and they see even more stuff happening. And that's when like Will's dad, John Perry's like, go now, it's the time, you know, because he's like the shaman and he knows everything. So he tells them when to leave and to go find, you know, their pan and all that stuff. So
yeah. At least in this speech before the battle, like he's on a speaker. It's always bothered me when they do it in other
It is
films,
not
like,
this day.
Yeah. Who can
Aragorn.
hear them?
Yeah.
Like how loud, or even like Braveheart type stuff, or any kind of battle. It's like at least he's on a speaker, so it makes sense.
Yeah. I know we should have like that scene from Life of Brian. Did he say, "Blessed are the cheesemakers"? Why are they blessed?
Oh, I haven't seen that in so.
I think it was "Blessed are the cheesemakers."
What's so special about the cheesemakers?
Long.
It's like the people in the back.
one.
Did he said we're not attacking today? Run away.
Oh man, if we still had Monty Python making fun of these kind of stories these days, it would be so funny. Yeah. Essa Roke. Golden Monkey scene was a highlight for me at the end of the Coulter redemption arc. Loved it. Felt like Lyra. I felt like Lyra.
Yeah, I think when it does come to changes, that's cool because of what they were doing with Mrs. Coulter's character. I think her character from the book, which is slightly different from the show, because we don't get as in-depth background on her like we do in the show. We get a lot more screen presence with her. Where in the show, we almost think she wants to give up Lyra, like at that, you know what I mean? Because she's so good at like deceiving and stuff like that. Where it's like you don't know really whose side she's on sometimes. Where it's like, what game is she playing at? Where this, you can kind of see the transformation happening.
Shrimp boy. They had to make some tough decisions on the scenes because this was the last episode. Can't cover everything. Overall, I was happy with the whole season and reward HBO with the money for the last 4 years. Can't wait for Last of Us, which I have to get used to saying last. I keep on saying the left of us, like what's left of us, but I don't know. Like what's left of us, what's the last? That comes out this January 17th.
Coming up.
I want to say, yeah. I'm very excited for that. I think it looks super. Mr. Sydney 9. The last season was such a bore. The story ultimately made sense. They really didn't know how to wrap it. Wasted my time.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that too. You know what I mean? If you're expecting more from the show, and it's tough, right? Like, especially when you dedicate 2 seasons already to something, you know, your expectations are high and you feel like it's like a lost ending or something like that, where it's like, you know, you're upset about it. I mean, that's how it was for Game of Thrones for me, because, you know, for book readers and people who look up the lore and stuff, you start to imagine different alternate endings, and obviously the writers kind of wimped out at the end and they condensed the seasons of Game of Thrones where it's like that lackluster ending, and I can understand that here with this show too.
I feel that way about a lot of stories and shows, because even when it came to like Naruto, the series, it's like that's or Full Metal Alchemist. It's like wait, or you know, like these certain things where it's versus the manga when you watch it, there's something that just doesn't do it the same. It's very difficult to end a story. Minus Lord of the Rings did a good job.
Yeah, with the longest ending ever.
Ultraman 619. The show is weird. This felt rushed and contrived, yet episode 7 and 8 emotionally destroyed me. Overall, the show could have been at least 4 seasons,
Yes,
but I
please.
enjoyed my ride.
That would have been amazing if it was 4 seasons.
I agree.
You get to just spend more time, but obviously sometimes too much time is a bad thing too.
Mm-hmm. Overstaying your welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All done. Yeah, it felt chopped up, but I still really enjoyed it. And yeah, pulled a tear at the end, pulled a tear at the end. There were way more respectful to the lore than rather ROP or
Ring of Power,
Ring of Powers or WOT.
Wheel of Time.
Oh, I don't know that one. Sorry.
Wheel of Time's like a fantasy series.
Oh.
Yeah, they did a series on it on Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't watch much Amazon. Still annoying stuff, but on balance, I can live with this. Tough gig, 3 seasons, big stories in each book. I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, HBO, BBC, I'll always give them the benefit of the doubt because I feel like they always have decent quality to high quality with all their shows. So
right. HSL 281. It was touching, but I felt like the last episode was 30 minutes of them just saying goodbye in different places.
That's how it is in the books, to be honest with you. That's how it is because it's like this whole journey. But what's different in the books, too, is like there's a big dinner. So after they talk to the angel and Serafina Pekkala, they understand this thing that they can't be together and they have to separate. But then the Egyptians comes. Well, the Egyptians comes on their boats. And there's like this feast with the Mulefa, and they're still hanging out. Then they take the boats back to go through a hole that takes them back to Cittàgazze. That's the Italian. Then they walk through the town and they go through the opening that Will and Mary Malone go through for the first time. And that's the opening they go through. Then they go. So it's like a whole.
They have to close all the doors though, anyway.
Yeah,
so might as well like party.
But there's like multiple different endings with Lyra and Will like having to deal with them being away from each other, kind of thing. So yeah, it's sad.
Sad story. Duranian Presidente. Something that didn't make sense to me is Will has broken the knife before and he got it repaired. Why did the knife break differently than in the last episode? Before it broke into a few pieces, this time it broke into dust. Secondly, they never really said who God was. I believe not even in the books. Who turned Metatron into an angel? I've even Googled it and the books doesn't even have a God in it either. Some people theorize that dust itself is God. And also, why couldn't Will just break the knife in Lyra's world and stay with her?
So the reason why he didn't break the knife, he would have died 10 years later from sickness because you can't live in someone else's world. And then God, it's tough, right? Because in his world, Philip Pullman's world, it's matter. There is no God. There's no all one being creator. It's just matter where things come from, right? And then the first person created from matter basically called himself God. And then everyone else that was created from matter, all the different angels, he kind of just said, I created you. And he kind of just started this lie that he was the creator and all this stuff. And that's when he implemented the churches as a safeguard for people to believe he was the creator. That's when they did the thing with the land of the dead. They put the harpies in charge to keep souls from not leaving so they can't ever become one with the universe again. So it's just like a Catholic Church force controlling the truth almost, I guess you can say.
Imperialism.
Well, that's just the take of it on the book. Kind of
thing. Hermone Inc. Sorry if I don't say your names right, guys. The fact that Will didn't scream when they were crossing the ferry like Lyra really annoyed me. Why do they always miss out on the really important details? Arg!
Yeah, because technically he was also getting separated from his demon.
Java.
Yeah. Kijava. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a little different in the books because even the 2 Gallivespians with them also feel a part of their soul being left on the banks too. Yeah. Really good in the books. Highly recommend reading the books.
Reaver Lord Tonnis. Honestly, with all the not so subtle parallels, the Genesis and the Garden of Eden, I was expecting Will and Lyra to just stay in that world and basically be Adam and Eve. Perhaps all the ghosts made flesh there too, so you actually have a decent sized population to found the human race.
Yeah. It's
Decent.
to the Garden of Eden. Yeah. To stay in the land. So what's interesting too, because it probably would have been a Garden of Eden if it wasn't for the birds that attacked the Mulefa and stuff. But that's the idea, right? It's this like perfect oasis for them to even come to after the battle. And because they're in the Garden of Eden, kind of is like a safe place, that's where they also fall in love because they don't sense any danger. So they actually have time to because the whole time they've been running. Ever since they met each other, they've been on the run. So they just kind of felt safe. And then even once they, see Mary Malone,
like Anakin and Padme.
Yeah. So
like once they get to their little lair and they're able to like go and frolic in the fields.
I hate sand.
Liar.
Andy.
No, we're just gonna go through Star Wars. We're gonna.
The Jedi are evil.
Andrew McNaughton. I think the battle scene would have been affected by budget. At the same time, I also think that having the ghost fight as well as Return of the King was Return of the King. Totally agree with the jarring caused by the cramming of the book stuff. I suppose we have to remember that Pullman was fully involved with the decision making on this adaptation. So I've seen the interviews where he seems open to revising things when he hears suggestions that he likes. That's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was something too, like someone mentioned something, I think, about his books and like, oh, it would have been better if Lyra and Will were under the moonlight instead of the stars, and he was like, oh, that probably would have been more romantic, so I think he's like open to it, where he's not like
JR.
Super protective maybe, of his material, where he's just open to different ideas and opinions, but like, and he probably understood too, like, he probably got a decent little check too from selling the rights to the show and all that, but I think you go in knowing things are going to be cut and stuff, but you hope the essence of the things you want in there to still be in there, kind of thing. So
right.
And it's tough because it's a long book series, and I think they did everything in their power to do it. So, and that's what we got. And
and same. It's like I'm happy it was made. I still enjoyed it. At some point, I will read the books. At some point in my lifetime when I start getting back into reading stories. But yeah,
definitely a good read. Thank you, everyone that commented. This is part 1. We have part 2 still to go through. There were so many comments on the other videos too. So we're going to hopefully go through that. You'll see part 2 video of the comment videos. But this has so much fun going through comments. I enjoy doing it this way more than replying. I probably will try to reply in the future. It's just with the holidays, work, everything going on. It's just like, this seems like an easier way to do it. And I just like having Brittany here too, because it's cool because she's not a book reader. So she can also
I am a book reader,
relate.
just not this book.
Yes, but she can also relate to some of the questions and ask more questions, maybe expounding on those topics and stuff like that, which is super awesome. And it'll be great when me and Kyle do deep dives because we both know the books and we can answer each other's questions. But this series has been so much fun. I love the dialogue around it. I love the comments. Thank you guys so much. Go to Instagram, follow Brittany on Instagram, cha.cha.cherry. She's a really cool, awesome photographer. Go check her out. And if you go to AsArt.space, you can find audio video links and our cool shirts. We have a Lord of the Rings shirts to His Dark Materials, all the other shows we cover. We're going to be covering Severance from Apple. Severance season 2 is going to be coming out, so we're definitely going to be that. And we're still on the hunt and the watch for season 3 of Raised by Wolves. Yes, #save Raised by Wolves. If you haven't watched Raised by Wolves, it's on HBO Max. I highly recommend it as a sci-fi thriller / mystery. I don't know. It's good. It's a good show.
It's very abstract.
A lot of good theories, and if you're into like the religious themes too, the Mithraic kind of has that religious theme of Adam and Eve too, and like the fall of sin and repeating itself. So if you're into stuff like His Dark Materials, you'll probably really enjoy Raised by Wolves. So yeah, thank you guys so much for all the comments. We will be back with part 2 for sure. We'll see you on the next AsArt. Oh my goodness gracious, so many comments.